Hi everyone, we'd like to start off with presenting our names. My name is William.
I am Fernanda.
And well, first of all, we'd like to know if the audience likes sushi. If you can raise your hands. Okay. Now, we'd also like to know if you like cream cheese in your sushi. Wow, nobody. Okay, that's good. That means your culture. Because actually liking cream cheese in your sushi is an Americanization of the traditional dish. And in today's presentation, we will be discussing traditional dishes alongside ingredients from Japanese cuisine. And if I'm being honest, we've been struggling a lot to put this presentation together because we really want to give a broad range of aspects of Japanese cuisine for you to understand and to have a better understanding of the culture. Now, we've also been talking to people from the Japanese culture itself to help us give you a better insight into it as well. And we will be discussing 4 main points of Japanese cuisine. I will be presenting 2 points of traditional ingredients and I will begin to talk about traditional dishes as well, and my partner will.
I will be presenting the history behind those dishes and also Japanese cuisine in America.
Traditional ingredients and spices. So this will be our first main point. And as our first main point, I will be discussing specifically a quite underrated Japanese ingredient that's called sashimi togarashi. And correct me if I'm wrong after the speech, please. And sashimi togarashi is actually found in many common dishes. It's found in many cooked meats. We can list a lot. It's also found in, how do you say it? It's found in so many things I'm forgetting. It's also found in soups. And the reason being that sashimi togarashi is a spice blend of red chili flakes, black and white sesame seeds. It also has nori flakes, dried orange peel, hemp seeds, and that's pretty much sums it up. And it gives it this extra kick, this really yummy, that yummy flavor that many of us taste when we try Japanese food. And that's why I also want to tell you guys that you shouldn't feel bad if you're not familiar with this blend, because according to Now This, a very popular website online for statistics, only about 15% of spice blend consumers know what sashimi togarashi is. And that just means that mostly markets and restaurants know what the blend is. But now that you know this, next time you go into a restaurant and you're enjoying a meal and there's a flavor, you might be able to identify it as sashimi togarashi. So now, because of this, I'd also like to discuss the second important ingredient. It's called wasabi. Now, to many of us who are familiar with wasabi, you either like it or you don't like it. The reason for people who dislike it commonly is that it's too bitter, and that's because the main ingredient in wasabi is horseradish, and horseradish does have a bitter taste. Although, for people who do enjoy wasabi, it serves a bigger purpose other than their preference for it. It also serves to cleanse your palate, and for many of us who enjoy something spicier, it just spicens out the meal. It's traditionally accompanied with sushi and other traditional dishes. Now, wasabi, actually, if you're interested, for those of us who haven't tried wasabi, next time you do go to a restaurant and see it accompanied in your meal, there's something to think about. Because according to Now This, another statistical website online, about 99% of wasabi is actually imitation. So you might want to ask whether it's real or not, just if you want that experience. Now, moving on to our second point, traditional dishes. One very important traditional dish is called hoto. Hoto is a very comforting soup in Japanese culture. It comes from the Yamanashi prefecture, and as you can see, the ingredients in hoto soup consist of wheat noodles, mushrooms. It also has other veggies that come into the blend, and sometimes it has sashimi togarashi, the blend that I just discussed. And this meal is not very commonly known because it's very close to its culture it's based on in the prefecture. Now, the second meal I'd like to talk about is fugu. At first glance, it might be difficult to realize what this is, but what it is a fish. So fugu, for those of us who are unfamiliar with fugu, is a fine delicacy in Japanese culture mostly because of what it takes to make it. And that might sound weird, but the reason that it's very difficult to make is that it's actually a big portion of the fish has deadly toxins, and it takes licensed chefs to prepare it in a way so that you obviously won't die. And fugu fish is something that I want to try, and I would encourage you to try, but try it at a restaurant where you know it's a licensed chef. Don't try it on the streets.
Now that we have discussed traditional dishes and traditional ingredients, I want to go behind any dish has a history. So I want to discuss one of a very popular ingredient used in the Asian culture is rice. According to Lucy Seligman, a food historian, rice began being popular around 300 BC, and it became a huge Japanese culinary aspect in the culinary culture. And with rice, the new kitchen tools and new farming methods were invented just because of this grain. For example, the farming method of paddy fields, which is a flooded field where semi-aquatic plants are planted. And also the pottery steamer was invented. And before they invented the pottery steamer, they either boiled or grilled the rice. So my next dish, which is really popular as well, is sushi. Actually, sushi didn't come from Japan. It was originally from China as a way to preserve fish, and it was also a typical meal poor people would eat until it started climbing the status, and it became a more high quality meal, and it also traveled around Asia and it came to Japan. What does originally come from Japan is the form we see of sushi right now, which is the roll form. According to History Channel, the chef Hanaya from Tokyo, Japan, formed this new display of sushi, and now we see it in America too. Now I want to go to my next point, which is history of Japanese food in America. So, as these dishes evolve and spread around the globe, it creates history in these different places. So, according to Gil Asakawa, a journalist and a speaker that speaks about Japanese culture, states that Japanese immigrants actually would go and work at rich people's houses, and they got to work alongside different people from different places. So they learned different cooking methods and ingredients which they apply to their food. And one example can be what my partner explained is the cream cheese in sushi. Another thing I want to point out about Japanese cuisine in the United States is, according to Sarah Lohan, a culinary historian, is that Japanese food has grown its industry so much in America that only in the United States there's about like 4,000 sushi restaurants, and only sushi restaurants, and they have a total of over $2 billion in profit, and it's only sushi restaurants. So today we have talked about traditional ingredients in dishes, the history behind dishes and ingredients. We also discussed the history of Japanese cuisine in the United States, and we also discussed ingredients there. A thing to remember is that when you eat a foreign dish, just remember that maybe it's not authentic, because especially if it's made in different places that it's not originally from.
And not only don't be afraid to try new things, but also don't be afraid to ask people from Japanese culture, because they can give you a lot better insight than we did, but also they can encourage you, and they can possibly even give you opportunities of having these foods authentically, or give you recommendations. But if you'd like to ask us, you still can, and feel welcome to. Thank you for listening.